Tonight, I want to spend some time on Frances Fox Piven, and she is the second half, the wife of Cloward and Piven, the strategy to overwhelm the system and get everybody on the welfare and collapse the economic system of the United States. I told you, put the Watts riots here. I told you the Watts riots. This was the inspiration for that strategy. That's amazing. Because she saw the riots and went, oh my gosh, I've got to overwhelm the welfare rolls. What does that tell you? Hold on to that for a second. Who is she? First, she was the honorary chair of the DSA. That's the Democratic Socialists of America. We've seen these guys before, and they're now all through the unions, etc., etc. She's instrumental in the founding of the voting rights movement, which helped create groups like ACORN, and with President Bill Clinton, she helped push the motor voter law in '93, largely responsible for swamping the voter rolls with dead people and Mickey Mouse. There she is with her husband, right behind Bill Clinton and motor voter law. If you knew anything about the 1966 article in The Nation, you understood what the motor voter law was all about. The article was called The Weight of the Poor, a strategy to end poverty. Again, it was inspired by the Watts riots. Here's what it was. First thing. You overwhelm the system. You get as many people on welfare as possible. They believe that it would create a political crisis that would force U.S. politicians to enact legislation. Quote, establishing a guaranteed national income. What? Problem with this theory was they had Richard Nixon in the White House. By the time they tried to do this, and I mean a guaranteed national income, that was the Soviet Union. You'd need to have, oh, I don't know, Stalin or a communist or a Marxist or a revolutionary in the White House for this to happen, when you could finally get the bottom to rise up because you're collapsing the financial system. Uh-oh. Any of this sounding familiar? This was actually tried. Rudy Giuliani credited the efforts of Cloward and Piven for the economic woes in New York City. In 1998, he said this.
This wasn't an accident. It wasn't an atmospheric thing. It wasn't supernatural. It was the result of policies, choices, and a philosophy that was embraced in the 1960s and then enthusiastically endorsed in the city of New York.
Okay, Cloward and Piven. In fact, the welfare rolls tripled around the country by the end of the 1960s. They began about 200,000 on welfare by the decades, and there were over 1 million people on welfare. As Giuliani pointed out, that happened during a boom economic period. Now let's look at the cities, shall we, that have been controlled by progressive Democrats for decades, like Detroit. Have you seen the latest from The Guardian? It's a photo slideshow of the ruins of Detroit. Look at that. This is Detroit. This is a major city in America. Look at this. I mean, this is America. Have you been to Detroit? It more resembles the ruins of Persepolis than anything in America. There you go, the ruins. Actually, that looks nicer than Detroit. The Watts riots. The riots was the inspiration. Their solution, guaranteed income. That's communism. But Nixon was in power, so they realized they had to put people in power to implement a solution. Then create or exploit problems, overwhelm and collapse the financial system. So they have to exploit the problems that we already have, you know, the ones that they inherited, and then overwhelm and collapse the financial system by getting more and more people onto welfare and on the dole until it just cannot hold anymore. That will then cause riots in the streets. People will rise up because they'll be hungry, they'll be poor, they won't have it. They have expected this system to work, so they will then riot, and if they won't, the people who have the solution will encourage the riots. And the people, you, will cry out for somebody to do something. And those people who now have power will implement the solution. Gosh, how do people not see this? Make no mistakes, Detroit was by design. This is E2, education. Now, you know what they're doing. We can correct their twisting of history by educating ourselves with the truth. Because you know what? You probably didn't know most of this. I didn't know most of this. And I can guarantee our sons and daughters, no matter what age, they don't know any of this. But the left is calling for action. They're saying now, empower yourself and rise up. But it is the dark side. They have to trick people into it. Feel your anger. Feel your rage. That's the dark side. Before the end of the hour, I will show you what Yoda said about feeling your anger and rage and where it leads. Next. It's a fun show again today. Congress comes back to block or stop or reverse the agenda. I'm talking to you about radicals and communists, and we're doing it all tonight in the framework of Star Wars, which would lead every executive in television and television history to say, how the hell is this show successful? I don't know. I told you from the beginning, okay, you guys don't have to laugh so hard. I told you from the beginning that the progressives in Washington are creating a global structure. They're creating this structure, and you don't want to see it turned on. Just like in Star Wars, when Princess Leia said, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. She had the plans for the Death Star. She said, you're not going to like it when they turn this on. The Imperial forces were building the ultimate source of power. In the end, how did it end? Come on. How did it end? Stupid, ridiculous, fuzzy bears blew up the ultimate source of power. It was great. Sweetness, because they would have never seen the little fuzzy bears coming. Now, when everything feels overwhelming, how do you beat it? Let's look for a little fuzzy bear. You don't have to be an Ewok. But I can guarantee you never saw the Ewoks coming, and neither did they. And they don't see you coming. Big government always fails in the end. It always does, whether it's collapsed by an Ewok or something else. But it always does. Look at every big government debacle ever, from Vlad the Impaler to Benito Mussolini. And I don't really know anything about Vlad the Impaler. I just think he's got a cool name and a spooky story. And don't give me the Mussolini thing. How dare you bring up Mussolini? Really, everybody loved him all around the world. Everybody in the media, the New York Times, oh, Mussolini, he's great. And a lot of rank-and-file Americans and all the Italians loved him. Mussolini was a good man. New York Times wrote glowingly about this guy, until it ended in, murder of a lot of people. In fact, I've told you before, a salute to him was etched into our architecture in New York City and Rockefeller Center. There it is. It's not there anymore because it was later replaced because some people went, I don't think that's good, by this. But don't worry about it, you blogs. It's a crazy Glenn. Oh, and only the quintessential book on art of Rockefeller Center that Columbia University and everybody else uses says that. So big governments always collapse. Why? Ewoks? No, not exactly. You can't contain the individual. You can't contain man's understanding of the fact that his rights come from God, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and all that stuff. All the stuff that what was it? Somebody said today, don't you think this constitutional stuff is getting a little out of control? Oh, I know. Next thing you know, you'll have a nation of laws and not of men. It's what used to be called common sense. If I may quote, I believe it was the Birds that first said, to everything there is a season. There is a structure to everything. There is a blueprint. There is a formula. They're using one. It's bottom up, top down. It's Cloward and Piven's system to collapse the system. It's Saul Alinsky. They're organized. They got it. Barack Obama was a community organizer. Do you remember when we used to look at community organizers a little like we looked at Ewoks? We all laughed at them. Like, that's ridiculous. Shouldn't have been laughing at them. They've been organizing for America. They have Acorn. They have the unions. They're telling their followers now, as we showed you, stand up, get into the streets, make noise, or even worse. And yet they can't stand it when we as average Americans take a stand. That's why the Tea Party is the bane of their existence. That's why they're all freaked out with the Republicans coming into office today. What they don't get, and what freaks them out the most, is nobody needed to organize them. Nobody needed to bust them in. Tea Party members just stand up. They do it on their own. Why? Because they believe in something. They believe in something. And it doesn't come from a place of anger. So we know their formula. It's right here. Right here. But what is our formula? What is America's formula? What is a Tea Party? What is your formula? What is your blueprint? We'll get into that next.